Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Namo sadanto suchedoye alahadi samya samputoshi.
Namo sadanto suchedoye alahati samya sambuddhasya.
无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered even in billions of eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. 师父上人，各位师兄，大家阿弥陀佛。Venerable Master Dharma friends, welcome to our Sutra lecture. My name is Heng, glad to be with you. I am here in the Gold Coast of Australia, Gold Coast Dharma Realm Monastery, also known as Shurangama Monastery, Langyan Shengse. It is Sunday, the 21st of September. We are moving away from Virgo into Libra, and glad you're with us today. Let's see here. We're going to first invoke spiritual presence. No, next. We've already done the Dharma request. That's the first. Next is invoking spiritual presence, inviting the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, the Avatamsaka assembly, and the gods and the dragons in the Eightfold Pantheon, spiritual Dharma protectors. To draw near, we do that with music. This is the same melody, by the way, that people use when they do a 3 steps 1 bow pilgrimage. This is the as you bow down to the ground, Namo Da Fang Guang Fo Huayan Jing. And when you stand back up, Huayan Hai Hui Fo Hu Sa. So this is, if people have ever said, that sounds familiar, I don't know if I've heard that before, but it seems like I have. It's because if you've ever taken part in a bowing pilgrimage, Chao Shan Sambui Bai, this is the melody that people use. We just put it into a musical with accompaniment from an instrument that is well known here in the West, banjo. So here we go. Here we go. Namo Da Fang Guang Fo Huayan Jing, Huayan Hai Fo Hu Sa. Namo One more time. And this being southeastern Queensland, we would like to acknowledge the Kombumerri people of the Ugambi language region as traditional storytellers and custodians of the land where our monastery is located, the earth, the water, the wind. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and to all First Nations people whose sovereignty was never ceded. And if we wanted to say that in Chinese, we would say, 我们恭敬地承认与冈北语族的孔布玛丽人，他们是我们寺院所在地的传统叙事者和守护人。我们向过去、现在和未来的长者们致敬，并且向所有从来没有放弃主权的第一民族的原住民致敬。Okay, now we've got I brought home a beautiful little bell from Japan, in fact, and we'll use this for the bell song. It's got a very pure sound, and if here we go. If I hadn't clicked on the original sound function here in Zoom, you wouldn't hear this. It's voice happens way up high like this. So see what you think. Here we go. The bell sound wide resounds throughout 100 million worlds. The 众生传3000劫内，佛法让万亿国中，共训其法界和平，利益报他诺后德。Okay, that's our beautiful Japanese bell. Now, I would like everybody who might consider leaving a question to feel free to do that. We have our varsity team here of question answerers, question recorders, question translators from both YouTube and also from Zoom. So if anybody would like to type in a question, we hope your question will have to do with Dharma, with cultivation, with the Avatamsaka Sutra. That's perfect, that's ideal. But go ahead and type in your question either to YouTube or to our Zoom chat function here, and our friends, our volunteers here will be happy to transmit your question to me, translate it, and we will look into these answers together, right? So please feel free. I'd like to say hello today to our co-hosts in Fremont, California, here in the Gold Coast, in, let's see here, where else? Vancouver, Canada, Saratoga, just not far from from our Redwood Vihara monastery, from Heilongjiang, from Montreal, the Belle Province de Quebec, from Perth all the way across Australia, from Burlingame, California, from Alameda, California, from San Francisco, Elk Grove, from Calgary, in Alberta, from Oklahoma, let's see, where else here? Virginia on the East Coast, from Malaysia, alrighty. Then we switch over to Asia, and we have friends here from Nali, Heilongjiang, Shandong, Jilin, 也是东北，北京、西安就西部，在陕西省，在河北保定，阿弥陀佛 ，OK， 保定我去过啊，还有let's see， 山东 from 哪里 ？From let's see here， 哈尔滨 ，OK， 北京，云南昆明 ，OK， 哇，欢迎 ，let's see here from 南京from 新疆，最西部 ，OK， 珠海黑龙江let's see here， 哈尔滨也是东北，辽宁也是东北，山东不是东北黑龙江苏州，山东 ，OK， and finally from let's see here。 let's see here, from Hebei. 一个台湾人都没有了，你看，还有可能不受欢迎啊。不会，开玩笑，就是台湾人都在听别的法师讲法啊。OK， 没有关系的。I am back in the Gold Coast, and I will prove it because this photo happened today. How about that? The Bird Cafe has opened. So these rainbow lorikeets are chugging down their special lorikeet cereal that we have to prepare for them. They are very distinguished, discriminating palates, so they like that. It was super popular this morning. Oh my goodness, that food. Here they are again. Yeah, chowing down on special lorikeet cereal. Look at the character, these birds. They are enjoying their breakfast. I'll say, there it is. All right. So I'm glad to be back and here in this magnificent Buddha Hall. Let's see here. If I don't share my screen, there we go. Now you can see the Buddhas here. And this is actually Vairochana with Samantabhadra and Manjushri Bodhisattvas behind. There we go. And this is lecture 136 in our progress through the Ru Fa Jie Pin. And we're still talking about Buddhas. The issue is our pilgrim, whose name is Shantai Tongzi Sudana, is traveling to find his path to Buddhahood. He's looking for answers to two questions. One of those questions is, how do I cultivate bodhisattva practices? The other question is, how do I walk the bodhisattva path? And he has asked those questions now to 6 different teachers, and he's got all these answers that he has to, not only does he have to understand what they tell him, but then he has to put it into practice to make it work. And because he is a really, really good student, he's going to get the answer. He's going to be able to make use of the instructions he's got. 2 weeks ago, I was driving home from Redwood Vihara down in the Santa Cruz Redwoods. It was a Sunday, and I was listening to a podcast about AI. I'm interested always in how people are putting AI to use. And the podcast had, the week before, had said any students in particular, the topic was AI in education. And he said, any students who are using AI to help them absorb the lessons or any creative way that you're using AI, please tell us about it. Leave us a voice message. So students did. And there was a young woman from MIT who said she had to learn, she's in computer science, and she had to learn set theory in order to even approach the questions that she was, so he had to learn a whole new technique called set theory. And so what she said was, yes, well, I asked ChatGPT to recommend a number of books that I can study set theory, and then she said, after I read the books that ChatGPT recommended, then I asked ChatGPT to quiz me on 10 important principles in set theory, and don't let me progress until I answer the question satisfactorily. So she had ChatGPT be her proctor, her quiz master, her, there's a name for it, the teaching assistant, the TA, who's going to make sure that she has absorbed the material before and be satisfied before she gets the next question from the chatbot, from the robot. And so clearly this student was using the large language model, that is the robot, to the maximum, to evaluate her answers based on the best knowledge available online. And so as a result, of course, this student is going to learn the material. And as I was listening in, I was thinking, boy, I used to really hate students, classmates like this, because they were always the ones who got the A. Not only did they get the A in the class, they were absorbing the material because it was a tool that they were going to go ahead and use in their lives to solve real world problems. She wasn't studying to get a good grade. She was studying to learn set theory and how that would apply to her computer science skills. She was acquiring this as a skill for her tool bag, for her toolkit. And it's like, oh, that's a grown-up way to get an education. This is the kind of person, if she didn't have AI chatbot available to her, in this case it was ChatGPT, but it could have been Claude, or it could have been DeepSeek. If she didn't have this as a tool, she would have had to go find maybe an upper class student or an actual teaching assistant. And those human beings are not content to answer her questions over and over and over until she absorbs it, the way the computer doesn't care how many times you ask the question. Furthermore, she had the computer knew how to judge her responses and grade them, and then only if it's satisfied that she has been, in Chinese you say 合格了, if she had fully absorbed the material, and only then move to question number 4, question number 5, question up to 10. So what a creative and kind of terrifying use of AI that for me, I would have been intimidated to even say, can I learn set theory? How am I going to learn this? And then use it to answer the questions. So amazing, amazing. Sudana is that kind of student. Back to the Avatamsaka Sutra, Sudana is the kind of student who, before he got to the current teacher, Jieto Zhangzhe, Elder Liberation, he took 12 years to absorb the last bit of knowledge that he was given from his previous teacher. So you know that Sudana is one of those guys who totally applies himself, challenges himself. Does he really understand this information before he moves on? So now he's ready, and what is the topic? What is he absorbing this time? It's Buddhas. What's a Buddha? And in the US, the last 4 lectures since we began Elder Liberation's instructions, we've been asking people this question: who is the Buddha to you? How do you visualize Buddhas? And I might suggest, here's one. There he is. Now, there's actually 2. Here's Amitabha standing. This is Vairochana sitting. And, okay, so we have a Buddha cast out of bronze or copper, gilded beautifully, and many people would go, oh, that's the Buddha. I'm going to suggest that according to the Avatamsaka Sutra here, and our translator doesn't have the benefit of I don't have the Chinese. I do. Wait. As a fellow translator, I am not going to give our translator high blood pressure. There. Okay. All right. So, further, now, I'm skipping ahead to Good Advisor number 53. Who is that? Pu Xian Pusa, Samantabhadra. Samantabhadra Bodhisattva answers Sudana as the last teacher. His answer is the one that we all remember, although there are 52 that precede. And interestingly, his answer is a 10-part answer. And we're going to go to number 9 out of 10. It's Pusen Pusa Shida Yuan Wang Di Jiu Da Yuan Heng Shun Zhong Sheng. There it is. According with living beings, following along with living beings. And we're going to skip down to the analogy. There's a beautiful analogy of trees that happens in vow number 9 of Samantabhadra's 10. He says, I'll read the Chinese first so that our translator can understand. 譬如狂野沙寂之中有大树王，若根得水，枝叶华果，悉皆放茂。生死狂野菩提树王亦复如是。一切众生而为树根，诸佛菩萨而为花果。以大悲水饶益众生，则能成就诸佛菩萨智慧花果。何以故？ It goes down to this. It says, here we go. Right here. This is the one. 诸佛菩萨诸佛如来以大悲水而为体故，因于众生而起大悲，因于大悲生菩提心，因菩提心成等正觉. Okay, I went too far. Here it is. And the last one that I want to show you is this one. 以大悲水饶益众生，才能成就。是故菩提殊于众生，若无众生，一切菩萨终不能成无上正觉. There it is right there. Okay, in English, this is the key that I want to use, that was my new awareness. This is, we'll close that, save it, and close. Okay, here it is. He says, it's like a great king of trees growing in the rocks and sand of a barren wilderness. When the roots get water, the branches and leaves flourish. Excuse me. Oof, so loud. Okay, try again. It's like a great king of trees growing amid the rocks and sand of a barren wilderness. When the roots get water, the branches and leaves flourish. The flowers and fruits are abundant. Okay, that's an image of a tree. We do the other half of the analogy. The regal Bodhi tree, living in the wilderness of birth and death, is the same in that living beings are its roots, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are its flowers and fruits. If you benefit living beings with great compassion, they can realize the fruits and flowers of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas' wisdom. Okay, therefore, Bodhi belongs to living beings. If there were no living beings, Bodhisattvas could not achieve Buddha's awakening. All right? Now, that's the text. Let me say it again in simple language, because even that much text, people go, hard to absorb. Here's the idea. Bodhi belongs to living beings. We see the Buddhas. Here's the Buddha. If this were an image from the Avatamsaka Sutra, this Buddha would be surrounded by living beings. There would be devas strewing flowers. There would be Vajra knights looking fierce, protecting the Buddha. There would be bodhisattvas and bhikshus standing on all sides looking at the Buddha with their palms together, hopefully receiving instruction, right? Buddhas connect with living beings. If there were no living beings who are confused and upside down and attached to greed, anger, and delusion, there wouldn't be any Buddhas, there wouldn't be bodhisattvas. So the point here is, when I ask the question, who is the Buddha to you? Many people say, oh, it's that fat, happy guy with kids climbing on his body, or money, or it's the guy sitting there in full lotus. Yeah, that's not wrong, that's correct. But that's an artistic version, an artistic image of the Buddha. Buddhas are surrounded. They're always connected to living beings. Master Hua put his monasteries in the places where suffering was the strongest, in the ghettos of major American cities, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Sacramento, right? Seattle, Vancouver in Canada. Oh my goodness, Gold Buddha. Right next door to Needle Park, where all people were being pulled out of single occupant resident hotel rooms, OD'd on drugs every day. Excuse me. So, Shifu, people would wonder, Shifu, how come all our monasteries are in the ghetto? Because that's where the regal Bodhi tree in the wilderness of birth and death puts down its roots. So that's a whole new way of thinking about Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. They're not bachelors, they're not alone, they're not lone. There's no such thing as a lonely Buddha, right? They're always surrounded by the beings whom they make vows to take across. So, interesting idea. Okay, with that in mind, let's take a look at the next round of Buddhas. Here we are. We got to the west last week, fragrant light. Today is north, and it's Kashaya banner. Okay, elder liberation is going around all 10 directions, showing Sudana, the Buddhas whom he sees. Ready? I'll give you a line, you give it back to me, please. If you can read the Hanzi, you're all set. If not, read the English alphabet below. Here we go. 又见北方袈裟床世界 不可坏金刚如来 应正等觉 道场众会 执手围绕 金刚 let's see here 金刚不勇猛菩萨 勇猛菩萨 而为上首 Excellent. Here we go. Can you read with me, starting with further? Here we go. Further, I see a world to the north named Kashaya banner, with indestructible Vajra, thus come one worthy of offerings, of impartial right awakening, surrounded by the assembly in his Bodhimanda, where courageous Vajra-like advanced Bodhisattva serves as the leader. Okay. Why make this point about Buddhas not being alone, Bodhisattvas not coming like lonely bachelors? Because our sutra, our Avatamsaka, explained Buddhas to Sudana in all these details. Look at the qualities that happen 10 times over. We get the direction of the world where Kashaya banner Buddha appears. We get the name, let's see here, the name of the world, Kashaya banner. We get the name of the Buddha, indestructible Vajra, Tathagata. We get his title, and then we find out that he's surrounded in his assembly in the Bodhimanda, and we find out the name of his chief disciple, the Bodhisattva. We hear this 10 times. That's the formula that elder liberation wants to give Sudana. Previously, what did we hear? Wow, we heard about the names that they had in past lives. We heard about the places they lived. We even heard what they ate. We heard about their afflictions. This is so interesting that as the Buddhas were passing through their lifetimes cultivating the way, they tended to fall asleep in meditation. They endured the habit of slumber. Did you all pick up on that one? Anybody who's done long meditation knows you have to work hard to keep alert, right? Well, that's true for Buddhas in the making. They experienced afflictions, including the habit of slumber. Been there, done that. Familiar with that one. Oh boy. So, how fascinating that the Avatamsaka points that out. That it's hard to stay alert when you're meditating for long hours. But that's the challenge. Okay. They appeared in assemblies. They had different families, different surnames, different sisters, different brothers. They traveled in different vehicles. They liked different things. Some were great fans of footy. Some were great fans of rugby. Some liked to surf. Some spoke Swahili. Some spoke French. Some spoke Polish. They had different bodies, different sense faculties and natures. This is the details the Avatamsaka Sutra points out when it's talking about Buddhas. How interesting, right? So, wow, there's a lot more here than we knew. Some people think, oh, the Buddha, yeah, he's fat. He overeats. He must eat a lot because to be so fat. I've got him at home on my altar. Well, that's one image of one Buddha whose name is Maitreya, the Buddha to be. That's not all Buddhas. We find out that there's all kinds of information about Buddhas. All right. Now, last week I prepared something that I didn't have time to present, which is this one. Worthy of offerings of impartial right enlightenment. Ying Zheng Deng Jue. Why that? What's that doing here? What does Ying mean? What does Zheng mean? What does Deng mean? What is Jue? So, I'll answer that question. Which is what? Buddhas have titles. If you've ever done a ceremony at one of our monasteries, you go, Ru La Ying Zhong Zhang Zhang Ming Hang Zu Shan Shi Shi Jian Jie Wu Shang Shi Tiao Yu Jiang Fu Tian Ren Shi Fo Shi Zun Nam Mo. In the 88 Buddhas' repentance, Ba Shi Ba Fo Da Chan Hui Wen, there are 10 titles of the Buddha. So when we get, it's too small here, let's try again, sorry. Thank you. There we go. Ying Zheng Deng Jue, one of the formal titles that follow a Buddha's name when we have elder liberation explaining Buddhas to Sudana. So in the sutra, this time, they use these 4 characters to be titles of the Buddha. When we did the Dharma request just minutes ago, we went Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa, right? We did homage to the Blessed, Noble, and Perfectly Enlightened One. Same thing. It's a formula for the title of the Buddha that's based upon the 10 names. The full 10 are Ru Lai, Ying Gong, Zheng Bian Zhi, Ming Heng Zu, Shan Shi, Shi Jin Jie, Wu Shang Shi, Tiao Yu Zhang Fu, Tian Ren Shi, Fo Shi Zun. Those are the 10. In Sanskrit, there's a list in Pali that's slightly different, but we say Tathagata, Arhat, Samyak Sambuddha, Vidya, Charana Sampana, Sugata, Lokavid, Anuttara, Purasam Puru, Sam Sad Mya Sarati. There we go. Shastra, Shasta, Deva Manusanam, Buddha Bhagavan, or Bhagavat. Same in Pali. When we do we do our morning chanting in Pali, and there's a similar list. Okay, thus come one who is worthy of offerings, perfectly universally enlightened, complete in wisdom and practice, well gone one, knower of the world, unsurpassed one, tamer and trainer of beings, teacher of gods and humans, awakened, world-honored one. That's the list of 10. And usually people don't want to go through all 10, so they abbreviate it. In the sutra just now, we have 10 Buddha's names, 10 different directions, and they use Ying for Ying Gong, Zheng for, so we have worthy of offering, Samyak Sambuddha, abbreviated. Then we have Deng Jie, which is equal, awakening, equally enlightened, and Buddha. So that's what this is. When we have Ying Zheng Deng Jie, that's the abbreviated titles from these 10. Okay? So, shorthand for Ying Gong Zheng Bian Zhi Deng Jie, there it is. The point I want to make is that list of 10 is very flexible. You can use some or all. When talking to the Buddha, often if we have like, and then Shariputra asks the Buddha, he says, Shi Zun Bhagavan. Usually he doesn't say Fo, you don't say Buddha or Buddha. You say Shi Zun, that's the familiar one. So titles are a big deal in the Sangha. For example, we say Xuan Hua Shangren, Xuan Gong Shangren, Shifu Shangren, or Shangren. These are titles that came gathered around our address to our teacher. And there are other rules in Chinese culture where you don't mention the Buddha, your teacher's name. So we don't say Xuan Hua, right, as disciples. That's really rude. You wouldn't say that. We say Shifu Shangren, his title. They say Zheng Yan Shangren, Master Zheng Yan of Tzu. She took the title, or her disciples gave her the title of Shangren, same as Shifu. Other teachers, they say He Shang, or Lao He Shang, or Da He Shang. What are some of the other ones? Think of, let's see, Zhang Lao, elder, right? That's one. He Shang, simply He Shang. If ordinary monks, Fa Shi, Dharma master. Now the challenge comes when you translate it into English. People say, Dharma master, I heard Dharma monster. Dharma monster. No. Or bhikshu. Oh, you'll be a bhikshu. Big shoes? You got big, what size? 12s, 13s? Big shoes, right? Oh, hard to find shoes that big. Wrong. Bhikshu, Sanskrit. So how do we name ourselves when we bring these traditions into the West? That's a challenge. Shifu said, you can call yourself Shi at the end. Just that. He said, I don't want you to be Dharma masters. Which of you can be a master of the Dharma? Fa, Shi, none of you. He says, call yourself Shi, teacher. Well, that made me Heng Shi Shi, and I was not going to be Heng Shi Shi the rest of my life. So I didn't use that. I use reverend because where I go, where I travel, like in North Carolina, where I just was, people know what a reverend is. The Reverend Mr. Black, right? So they have you're a preacher, you're a reverend, you're a man of God, well, but not Christian, so man of God doesn't work. So I became preacher in North Carolina because they know what that is. And they had me very happily in the role of preacher. Never mind I was wearing Buddhist robes, but I was the preacher, someone who talked about spiritual things. So that worked out really well for them to say, oh yeah, you look like a preacher. We kind of know who that is. So to use the name reverend, that's not specifically priest. I'm not a priest, I'm a monk. On my badge that I had at music camp this year, I didn't try to say Heng Shi. Nobody can say those two Chinese words. I wrote M-O-N-K. So people said, hey monk, have you got your microphone? You know, that worked out. That was good monk. Monk is Thelonious Monk, the jazz musician as well, so that worked out pretty well. So we haven't, I could say, in this first 100 years of bringing the right Dharma to the West, the customs that are going to last, we haven't worked them out yet. They're still undergoing transformation. But probably, I know Jin Chuan, the Dharma brother, he's using bhikshu. That's legit to introduce a Sanskrit word and say, no, we're going to stick with bhikshu. I could do that, bhikshu Heng Shi. But you have to teach people that new word. Not everybody's going to be interested in sticking around long enough to learn another Sanskrit word. They'll just go, oh, those Buddhists, you know. I want something better. I want recognition as a Dharma master, as a preacher, as a reverend. Reverend's good because it's neutral. You can be a reverend in different denominations. And people know that indicates you're a person who is ordained. You're not just an ordinary marketplace guy, right? So that's kind of our experience of titles. Rulai, this one is not home yet. Thus come one, nobody knows what that means. One who came like that. That come one, like instant, just like this, as he is, according to the Tao. Something like that. So Tathagata. Tathagata is too foreign sounding. That won't make it. We're using Tathagata in our translation of the Avatamsaka, hoping to introduce it, because thus come one is, it requires more translation. What does it mean to say thus come one? People are like, don't understand. Tathagata, you can say title of the Buddha. Arhat is already part of English. That's already a word. One who is worthy of offerings. Zheng, Bian, Zhi, correctly awakened, one of knowledge that is pervasive, omniscient, universally enlightened, universally knowledgeable. Is that spelled right? Knowledgeable? Knowledge, able, knowledge, need a G, knowledgeable. Okay, Ming Heng Zu, complete, perfected, perfect in practice, not conduct, practices. Awake, white, so one who lights up, one who has a light, who has awakened, and whose practices are complete. So complete in wisdom and practice. This one, thus come one, the one well gone. There's another name that Shifu introduced in Chinese called Guo Lai Ren, a person who has gone and returned. So one who is cultivated to the other shore and then come back to teach, right? Shan Shi, one who has gone well, skillfully going, one who has traveled, a Guo Lai Ren, well gone one, another title of the Buddha. Well, go on. This is very interesting. 世间解. And I want to say, each of these, I haven't done the research into these 10 titles, but each of these 10 titles has deep, deep stories behind them. How these titles came about. There are legends behind each one. These are not carelessly assigned. Okay, 世间, world, worldly, 解, one who understands, lokavid. 无上士, the sublime, the highest teacher, the highest. 士 is a hard one to translate, sometimes translated as knight, like knight errant, K-N-I-G-H-T, a knight, one who is both one, knowledgeable in language, and one who is knowledgeable in physical martial arts. That's the idea of the shi, the highest, unsurpassed. Yeah, we've been struggling with how do you translate shi for a long time. 调御丈夫, this is interesting. Tamer of beings. That assumes that beings are kind of like wild animals. They need taming. Yeah, not so good. One who subdues, also that same problem. Subduer. Sometimes the beings need subduing, right? Purusha is a person. Damya sarati. One who knows how to tune up. Subduer, harmonizer, that's the one we use, harmonizer. Putting living beings into harmony, that makes sense. Okay, so you train a jiangfu who can 调御. This, like, think of a bicycle. And the last time you rode a bike, did you ever pay attention to the spokes on your bike? If the spokes are uneven, those wires that come out of the hub on the bicycle wheel, if they're uneven, the wheel won't last long because it's tighter on one side than the other. You're going to lose your bike wheel very quickly. So when you 调御, 调服, you turn the spokes until they're all equally at the same length. That way when it turns, there's no friction, there's no pressure on the wheel at this point, but not that point. So harmonizer and trainer of beings is good for 调御丈夫. This one is really obvious. 天人师, teacher of gods and humans. Apologies for all the nose blowing here. We'll edit that out later. All right. So Buddhas, whenever there are images of Buddhas that picture them not solitary beings, right? There are devas flying through the sky. I'll give you an example. Here we go. Vajra Sutra image. Take a look. Here is our Vajra Sutra frontispiece, the oldest printed book in the world. Wood block print. There's a deva flying through space right there. Look at those offerings. He's got what? Fruit? This look like lohan guo, maybe, or baishan guo. Huh? Sham baishan guo, 是不是? Okay, she's offering, and here's flowers. Here's a deva, there's another one. Here's another deva. She's got what looks like maybe artichokes, maybe. Some sort of fresh, delicious thing that she's offering to the Buddha, or he. So devas always appear where there are Buddhas because that's what they're the best at, is making adorned offerings. They know the right music to play. Oh, here's a fierce Jinggang Li Shi, Vajra Knight. But teacher of devas and humans is Tianren Shi. So the Buddha is that. He can teach devas. Devas are just one level up from humans. They are still in birth and death. Devas are very much in samsara. They have very, very long lifespans, but at a certain point, their blessings run out, and they leave the heavens and come back into the human realm, or if they didn't cultivate at all, they can fall further. So the thing about devas is, with their blessings, they have time to cultivate. And they have a true shan zhishi, a good and wise advisor in the king among gods, his name is Shakra Devanam Indra, Shiti Huanyin. He is also known as Yu Huang Dadi, the Jade Emperor. And the Avatamsaka, we were talking. I've already gone to the 9th transference on my lecture tomorrow night. Every Sunday night, as if I were at CTTB. It's 7:30, although I'm rarely at CTTB. I lecture on Zoom. It'll be from 12:30 here in Australia. It'll still be 7:30 back in California. I do the Sunday night Avatamsaka Sutra lecture from CTTB, in quotes. Actually, I'm physically somewhere else. We've lectured to the 9th transference, Di Jiu Hui Xiang. And we've got to come up pretty soon. I'll be done with the 9th transference. And then the 10th transference is a masterpiece. It's really long, so it's not going to be a while. It'll be months until we finish with the Shi Hui Xiangping, the 10 transferences. When I'm done with that, we have to decide which new chapter of the Avatamsaka to explain. And I am leaning right now towards the Shen Shou-pin. The Shen Shou-pin, known in our early translation as worthy leader. We may keep that title. We might move to something like leader of goodness. Shen is Pu Shen Pusa de Shen. It means one who is good at, is worthy, is honored, is excellent, one who is way above average, as they would say in the Prairie Home Companion world, right? Well above average. Xianren is one who is honored, one who is good at things, and also good, just capital G, goodness. That has all those names and has all meanings in the word Xian. So in that chapter of the Avatamsaka, oh boy, there's all kinds of kind of like inside scoops about what goes on in the heavens. Lots of stories about what it's like to be a deva that you wouldn't know if you hadn't read the Avatamsaka Sutra. For example, Shakra Devanam Indra, they call him the chief among gods. He has a drum, Tiangu. And with this drum, he beats the drum for two particular situations, two different reasons. One of those reasons is he wants the devas to come to the Shan Jian Dian, the hall of wholesome viewpoints. 善良的见解，这个殿那个宫殿 okay? 善见殿. That's where Shakra speaks Dharma. He speaks Dharma so that the devas won't exhaust their blessings and run out of blessings and leave the heavens because they spent their money and they emptied their bank account of goodness. So he beats the drum, boom, boom, boom. And when the devas hear that sound, it pulls them into the Buddha hall in the heavens. They have to put down their toys, they have to put down their pleasures temporarily and go listen to the Dharma. He encourages them to cultivate the way and to keep their blessings going. Otherwise, they could leave the heavens. So he becomes their true good and wise advisor. The other reason, why is the other reason the Tiangu sounds? According to the Shen Shou-pin of the Avatamsaka, it says, uh-oh, trouble, the Asuras are invading. It's time to go to war with the Asuras because the Asuras want to knock the devas out of the heavens. How about that? So, yeah, definitely. Listen to the Shen Shou-pin for all these good stories about what it's really like in the heavens. You might think, whoa, must be blissful, must be really good. Yeah, kind of. except when it's not. All right. So there we are, titles of the Buddhas. Sometimes reciting all the titles are long, so the texts make them 应正等觉 for 应功, 正辩知 plus 等觉. So that's the one that we're using right now, 应正等觉, 应正等觉. Other times, 应功正等觉. Other times, 如来应功正辩知. Other times, 圆满觉. Other times, 世尊, standalone. Okay? In the Amitabha Sutra, Namo Amitofo, 应正等觉. Sometimes, 如来应功正辩知. Okay? 应等正觉. They all come from the 10 titles of the Buddha. How do we know that? I ask my chat bot. Oh, man, I know. But thank you, ChatGPT. Okay, 应正正觉. That's why these 4 characters pop up 10 times, over and over and over. Okay, so we did the north. Just did the north. We did the west last time. Let's do. We got the east to go. Should we do it? Can we do it together? We'll turn the cameras off. Nobody will know if you don't, except you yourself. Here we go. 又见东北方，一切上妙宝世界，无所得境界也。I'm sorry. One more time. 无所得境界言如来。应正等觉 You know what that is. 道场充会之所围绕无所得善变化菩萨而为上首 Okay, we're getting familiar with this formula here. All right, let's read it together. Here we go. Further, I see a world to the northeast named superior, wondrous jewels, with visions of nothing to attain, thus come one worthy of offerings, of impartial and right awakening, surrounded by the assembly in his Bodhimanda, where nothing to attain skillful transformations Bodhisattva serves as the leader. Okay, what's amazing in this one is the name of the Buddha, vision of nothing to attain. That's his name. 无所得境界言如来. Okay, here it is. Nothing to attain state. I, Tathagata. 如来应当正觉. Okay. Right. I was telling you it's Ying Dang Zhengjue. It's actually Ru Lai Ying Dang Zhengjue, but the Ru Lai follows right after the name. Okay, so nothing to get Jingjie. Jingjie is one of those funny words that is very difficult to translate. I'll get adjusted. I have to be here a few days. I'll stop blowing my nose. I'll stop choking on tea. This all has to do with crossing the ocean. My body is here. My essential spirit might be over Hawaii at this point. We'll see. Maybe already to Taiwan. Give me a couple days. Okay. So, Wu So De Jing Jie Yan. That's his name. Let's go the headword technique. I, like this I. The translator said vision. I, Jingjie I, state, Jingjie translates as state of being, or existential state, or kind of like Gestalt. The German is a good translation, Gestalt, kind of like your essential, how you're doing sort of thing.
So, wu so de, nothing to attain. This is real Buddhist code, isn't it? One more time. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. I shouldn't pretend like I'm not drinking when I'm actually drinking. That's the problem. I don't want to. Well, the monk's drinking a lot. They got a really nice cup. Look at that pretty cup. There it is. Okay, yep. I'll drink to that. Skål. Slancha. So, wusoda, nothing to get. How does that work? How does nothing to get? It's that this Buddha meditated until emptiness became part of his consciousness. Emptiness not saying this is empty, clearly it's not. Is this empty? No. You can not only see it, you can hear it. That's not empty. So what does it mean? It means that when you meditate, you're putting together the sense organ, your eyes, your ears, your nose, your tongue, currently that's giving me trouble here, your body, that organ, the skin, and your mind. You're using all those sense organs as they connect with, I raised my hand when I did this. Zoom raised his hand for me. How do I unraise the hand? Let's see here. Doesn't have the control where I am. Let's see if I stop sharing. There we go. Now I can bring it down. Apps, companion, react. That's the one I want. Do not recognize hand gestures. Okay, there we go. And share my screen. And my hand should have gone away. It did. So you use your 6 sense organs. You use the 6 sense objects to perceive those sights and sounds and smells and tastes, sensations of touch and dharmas. Then there's consciousness in between. So the eye, the things it sees, and then the knowledge to the mind of the sight. When you meditate long, what happens is that those what are called 18 realms, the Shirvajya, transform. There's changes. You seems like you're sitting still, but in your mind there is an awareness of the, what do you say, the temporary connection between the eye and the thing that it's seeing. You empty out, that's the verb, through a process of investigation. In the Chan world, they say Chan. You look into this connection. Sense objects, sense organs, sense consciousness. You investigate it, you look into it, and it starts to transform. You realize that it's simply a coming together of conditions that make this metal object called a bell ring when I tap it, but put this in a fire and it transforms. Change your hearing and the sound doesn't function the way it used to, right? So over time, with using the Dharma, this technique of investigation, you realize that all perception actually has a source in the mind. Everything that you perceive arises from the same place. The 18 realms, the Shirvajya, the 3 sets of 6 propositions, organs, objects, and perception, consciousness, all transform. At that point, you can realize what's called prajna paramita, boro bola midwo, and you empty out the self that could get anything from that experience. There is no self that can get that sound, that can get the sight of the bell. because the very thing that you're using to get something isn't a permanent collection of conditions, right? I think that's clear. When the thing that you're observing with starts to break up, you realize there's nothing to get. So nothing to get is not a rejection of acquisition. It's not a anti-marketplace statement on the Buddha's name. No, it's not. It's that the Buddha, in his or her own meditation, have realized the state where not only the thing that's out there is seen as a coming together of conditions, but the thing that does the getting of any state also breaks up. Okay, here we go. 无所得, 境界, vision, or I. Tathagata, that's the Buddha's name. Confusing? No, yes. All right, well, we'll work on it. I wanted to share something quite wonderful here as a kind of reward. If you're still with me, if you haven't gone to sleep yet, I want you to appreciate one of the best songs about the Buddha that we have had in the Dharma Realm Buddhist Association, created by a bhikshuni formerly known as Heng Yin. Okay, we'll do Way Out West Part 2. Lonnie Bauer, there we go. She had an album called Awakening. That was dedicated to the project of putting the Buddha's teaching into song form, a project that I also admire and work for. It goes like this. This is based on Amitabha, the Buddha of the West. Way out west, in Amitabha's country, way out west, in Amitabha's land, lotus-born folks, those born in a lotus flower, Buddhas soon will be, since Amitabha took them by the hand. Amitofo, 跟你接手, 你就会成佛, right? You'll be reborn from a lotus, you'll become a Buddha soon. There you go. Way out west, the birds speak the Dharma in the Pure Land. Way out west, across the sea of pain, Amitabha's light will purify your karma. And all you gotta do is say his name. This is very clever lyrics covering, interpreting the Amitabha Sutra, Amitabha's 48 vows into song form. And your part, you will sing along, you'll go, way out west, in Amitabha's country, way out west, in Amitabha's land, lotus-born folks, Buddha soon will be, since Amitabha took them by the hand. Okay, that's your part, that's the chorus. Don't look to the past, it's over and done. Don't look to the future, it hasn't come. Be here in the present. With his name in mind, Amitabha's light makes everything work fine. Okay? Good song lyrics, right? Here we go. Your part goes, way out west, in Amitabha's country, way out west, in Amitabha's land, lotus-born folks, Buddha soon will be, since Amitabha took them by the hand. You can do that much? Let's try it. Let's try from the start. Here we go. Start right up here. Way out west, in Amitabha's country, way out west, in Amitabha's land, lotus-born folks, Buddhas soon will be, since Amitabha took them by the hand. Way out west, birds speak the Dharma, way out west, across the sea of pain, Amitabha's light will purify your karma. And all you gotta do is say his name. Okay, here we go. Way out west, Amitabha's country, way out west, in Amitabha's land. Lotus-born folks, Buddha soon will be, since Amitabha took them by the hand. Okay, here's verse number 2. Yeah, verse number 2. Don't look to the past, it's over and done. Don't look to the future, it has not come. Be here in the present, with his name in mind. Amitabha's light makes everything work fine. Okay, here comes the chorus. Way out west, in Amitabha's country, way out west, in Amitabha's land. Lotus-born folks, Buddha soon will be, since Amitabha took them by the hand. Lotus-born folks, Buddha soon will be, since Amitabha took them by the hand. Since Amitabha took them by the hand. Playing that on a fretless banjo, oh my goodness. You actually have to know where your fingers go before that works. All right, well, let's see now. It is time to keep my promise that we will answer some questions. Okay, let's see here. Can you help me determine who my refuge guru is? Follow you as often as I can. I've worked with Dalai Lama. My refuge guru is Lama Zopa Rinpoche, who passed away. OK， 就说，请问能否帮助我确认谁是我的皈依上师 ？OK， I don't know the Tibetan tradition, so I can't answer about the Tibetan tradition. Lama Zopa Rinpoche is a wonderful monk. He's no longer with us, but his teachings are here. The community that he created is still here. Of course, His Holiness Dalai Lama, we know that he is an incarnation of Guanyin Bodhisattva. Shifu himself said so. So how can you beat that? But I don't know the Tibetan tradition. In the Chinese Mahayana, there's no confusion. If you took refuge, that's your Shifu. Now, in the Dharma Realm Buddhist Association, I have personally transmitted the 3 refuges and the 5 precepts to thousands of people, no exaggeration. I am not your teacher. We don't have teachers in DRBA separate from our master, our founder, Shenhua Shangren, Shengong Shangren. What we say is anybody who takes refuge with our teacher or the next generation, that's us, can consider yourself to be a disciple of City of 10,000 Buddhas and the DRBA monastic Sangha. Why do we say it that way? 就是说，所有法界佛教总会的出家众有资格给你当师父。Why do we say it that way? It's because if I said, oh, you're all my disciples, because I did the ceremony, I would have a lot of disciples and no other monks or nuns would. That doesn't work. We have 29 monasteries now. So the way we say it is, whoever is the Chujia Zhong, the left-home person closest to you, can be for you your teacher, your refuge teacher. Now, why do you need a Shifu? Number one, Dharma masters speak the Dharma. They explain the sutras. They interpret Shifu's teaching for us every day, so we can put those practices into practice, make them work. Number two, if you want to plant blessings, it's good to have a monk or a nun close by. You can make an offering. So they are happy to serve as Fu Tiansang for you. And no matter who it is, if you're in Long Beach, you can go to Fu Lu Shao, long life, blessings, and blessings, long life, and prosperity. You can go to Long Beach Monastery, Changti Sheng Si, if you're closer there. If you're in Seattle, you can go to Gold Sage, you can go to Snow Mountain, see Dharma Master Heng Lai. You can go to the nuns at Gold Buddha or Avatamsaka Monastery in Calgary, et cetera, et cetera. You understand how that works. So the other thing that sometimes people want to ask about is they want to know about personal questions. Maybe somebody in their family wants to get married. Maybe somebody that passed away. It's good to have a monk or a nun, a shifu, close to you then. So suppose you fly into Gold Coast Dharma realm and the monks or nuns here give the refuges, then you return home to Kuala Lumpur or to Taipei, then you never get to see your shifu. That doesn't work, right? So that's why we say, who is closest to you has zhige, has the authority to serve you as your teacher. So for you, if both your teachers are Tibetan, I don't have an opinion. I think Lama Zopa Rinpoche is a wonderful teacher. You can find his tradition, the FPMT, the Foundation for the Preservation of the Mahayana Tradition, in many places. In France, they have a lot of monasteries. In San Francisco, down near us in Redwood Vihara, in Sokel, Land of Medicine Buddha is one of FPMT monasteries. So you pick. If you feel like Dalai Lama's in India, Lama Zopa Rinpoche's passed away, you can find your way to a DRBA monastery, take refuge under Master Shenhua's next generation, and you know who your teacher is. Amitabha, someone asked me what the ultimate goal of Buddhism is. I answer that Buddhism teaches sentient beings the path to transcend birth and death. She asked, so after that, where do we go? I would like to ask the Reverend to help answer this question. Thank you very much. Okay, 阿弥陀佛，有人问我佛教的终极目标是什么？我回答说，佛教教我们教众生的说如何超越生死之苦。然后他问，那之后我们会去哪里？我想请法师帮我回答这个问题。Okay, so here's the question: what happens when you? That's a good answer. That's both. Your answer is correct. So the questioner was interested enough to follow up with a second question, and I would challenge her to say, 我们会去哪里? So what is the issue for 了生脱死? 超越生死之苦. The thing that causes the ku is the self, is the 我们. So if you do this, if you accomplish the project of Shakyamuni Buddha, the prince, right? The prince, Siddhartha, recognized birth and death. And so he said, wow, this is a big problem. I want to see if I can solve that problem. And when he did, he became the Buddha. What was different was the self was 看空放下, 看破放下. He saw through the illusion of the self. He said the self is just a way of seeing. It doesn't correspond to reality. What is reality? The reality is all living beings are connected. We all go through coming into being, abiding, passing away, returning to emptiness. So, 常住坏空, 生老病死. Everything that comes together based on conditions falls apart at some point. There are only two things that don't. What are the two things that are called wu wei fa? One is shu kong, and the other is nibbana. Empty space and nirvana are the only two wu wei fa. Everything else is yo wei fa, conditioned dharmas. So the self is one of those things, the thing that makes me different from all of you, and I'm here inside my skin and kind of broken from everybody. That's the source of birth and death and affliction. So if you can 超越生死之苦, that means you have set down the self. You've seen through it and really transformed the view of self. At that point, there is no more 我们 where you 去哪里, right? At that point, instead of being blown by the wind of karma into another body, you follow your vows to be born wherever you choose. 来明去来, They say clear on where you come from and where you're going. That's 解脱. Okay, so there's nowhere where you go. Amitofo, you can go wherever you choose, wherever living beings are to be saved. I respectfully bow to Heng. In our spiritual practice, we might go astray. How do we assure we stay on the right path? I memorized a little of the Shurangama Sutra. I feel unprecedented joy in the Dharma. The more I read the Avatamsaka, the happier I get. If I have the opportunity to memorize the Avatamsaka in the future, but can't memorize the entire text, which chapter should I focus on? Wow, that's a big vow. What's the most important part of the Avatamsaka Sutra? A lot of questions here. Amitofo, Dingli, Heng Shi. 我们修行会走错路，怎么样才能确保不走错路呢？我就背了一点点楞严经，就感觉从来没有过的这个发起充满。华严经越let's see， 华严经越读越开心。OK， 如果将来有机会背华严经，但不能全部背完了，哪一品最好 ？OK， 华严经的最重要部分。OK， so many questions. The person who answered that question, Master, let's see here. The person who answered that question was Hong Yi, Master Hong Yi. Hong Yi Da Shi, Hong Yi Hong Yi Fa Shi. Let's see if it'll come up on that. Reading Huayan essay, there it is. Okay, it's called, here. I'm going to put this into the chat bot and tell you to go find this essay. I'll put it into, let's see, can I edit here? There, shrink it down. There we go, right here. This is an essay which you will find very useful in answering your question, right there. 华严经读诵研习入门此地. You can find this in Chinese. We translated it. I don't know if there's an English translation available online, but it's here we go. It's called Master Hong Yi's essay on, that's not a very good translation, on, okay, the Avatamsaka Sutras, reading and reciting the Avatamsaka Sutras, and investigating, so a primer for investigating reading and reciting the Avatamsaka Sutra in sequence. That's the key here. So what Master Hong Yi says is he advises us against starting with chapter 1. He says if you really, really have a heart for the Avatamsaka Sutra and you want to if you have the vision to absolutely encounter every single word of the Avatamsaka, he says start on chapter 1. If, like most people, because the sutra is very large, if, like most people, you want to kind of get a sense of the overall picture, a summary, and know where to start, he says go directly to chapter 40. 入不思议解脱境界普现恒愿品 Samantabhadra Bodhisattva's Practices and Vows chapter. He says that chapter, he is quoting Master Chengguan, Qingliang Guoshi. Master Chengguan says that, here we go. He says the Pushen Hongyan chapter 40, is the key to understanding the entire Avatamsaka. He says that's the place to go first. Then he says, if you like that and you have more energy, he says, go to Jinghengpin, Purifying Practices chapter. And then if that works out for you, because it's very lively, it's a conversation between Manjushri Bodhisattva and another Bodhisattva. He says, if you like that, go to Fan Hengpin, the Brahma practices chapter. And then he says, go to 10 practices, 10 transferences, 10 stages. Then at that point he says, if you're still going, if you really like the Avatamsaka, start in chapter 1. But the reason is, the Avatamsaka is very large. There's the first 13 chapters read like a vision directly from the enlightened insight of Samantabhadra Bodhisattva. He lists worlds. It's very hard to keep your interest if you're just reading lists. Until you have samadhi. If you really have samadhi, then of course you want every word. So that's what I recommend. In terms of should you, to keep, your question was, how do you keep on the path and not so it's lu? Find friends. Cultivate with wholesome friends. Listen to sutra lectures. Meditate. Find friends who serve. Go out and work for people who are elderly or suffering illness. Find a way to serve others. That's the best way to keep your blessings going, that then will help your ability to study the Dharma. Okay? So that's my best advice to you. The Buddhist told Ananda that good friends are 100% of the path. So find good friends to cultivate together with. If you have a monastery close by, go make offerings to the Sangha. That will keep you on the right path, for sure. But you should also listen to this lecture every week without fail. That'll help, definitely. We'll support each other. How's that? Okay, thank you I just did a couple questions. We appreciate we'll keep the list and we'll keep refreshing, so we'll get to all your questions every week. And the next week, we only got 2 Buddhas, but I think it's useful to keep us so we can, we're making the transition here to Australia. Next week, we're going to do the southeast, we'll do the southwest, we'll do the northeast, above and below. So we have 5 directions to go, and the Elder Liberation does a summary, and he talks about his state. I know that all Buddhas and my mind are completely like dreams. I know that all Buddhas and my mind are like an image. My mind is like water, right? He really gives Sudana this perspective on Buddhas that you don't get anywhere else. So we will mark this one here. I hope after finishing this teacher of Sudana's, everybody listening will have a whole new understanding of what Buddhas are like. It's not just this, it's this wonderful image over my shoulder for sure, but it's not limited to that guy sitting on the altar. Buddhas are surrounded by all kinds of real life living beings, just like the roots of a tree are connected to the fruits and the flowers. You don't get one without the other. Alrighty, we're going to dedicate merit now. And let's see here. Oh, there's Dexter. This is a 25-year-old cockatoo who showed up this morning just as if I'd never left. He's got a permanently damaged left wing, that's why we call him Dexter, but he flies just fine. He always shows up with a companion, and I think he only sees out of one eye. He may be 25 years old, we think, and we got to get some sunflower seeds because that's what he likes. And if he doesn't get enough sunflower seeds, he's not a happy bird. So we have to make all these birds who patronize the bird cafe, we have to make them happy. Okay, dedicate merit. See you all next week. Thank you for tuning in. Glad you could be with us. You gonna make a wish? How do you want your merit to go out to the world? May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of our endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. We can bow to Guanyin if you care to. Join me. Yi Wen Xin, Zai Wen Xin, Sam Wen Xin. And we can bow to our teacher. Bow in respect to the Venerable Master. All right, thanks for joining everyone. See you all next week. Ami Tofo. Bye now.